There are certain things that intermediate pickleball players know that you probably don't know quite yet. That's okay, but as a beginner, we're going to give you all of these common mistakes and general practices that are going to help you to beat your friends and help you have a lot of fun in the process. Let's get started with the serve. There are two different types of serves in pickleball that you can do. One is the volley serve, and that's when we just have the ball out in front of us and we volley it. A volley is just a ball that hasn't bounced yet, okay? So we can do like that. Okay, that's a volley serve. The other is the drop serve. Very simply, the drop serve is where we drop the ball and then we smack it. Pretty cool. The rules with the drop serve, let's start there first. You can't apply any force to the ball. So I can't go like this and drop the ball. I also can't go like this and drop the ball because that's applying force, right? I have to simply drop and then I can smack the ball. So just make sure with the drop serve that you don't apply any force with the ball. Have it right out in front of you like this. That's the best way to do it, and just drop it. It's a very, very easy way to do that. That's kind of the rules there. With the volley serve, one area that a lot of people get confused with, advanced players even, is with the toss. Keep in mind that in amateur pickleball, everything but the pro leagues, you can toss the ball and smack it like that. That is perfectly legal. Where a lot of people get confused is they think that the toss is illegal because that's how it is in the PPA. That is a PPA specific rule. Right now it's August 2025. That's how it is at this moment in this time of recording. I'll put it in the description if it changes, okay? But that's the rule. You can toss the ball on a volley serve. Where should you begin? If you're comfortable with the volley serve and you really feel confident with that, that's great, go for it. But if you're kind of like, I don't know about that, just start with the drop serve. It's a super easy place to begin. Again, try to lock your elbow and just drop that ball and smack it. In terms of the swing, we just want to do a basic swing. Here's what I want you to try. Hold your paddle right out in front of you and pretend like you got some onions, okay? And your paddle is a skillet and you're kind of like sauteing up some onions. Put your ball out in front of you and swing with your shoulder. That is the most accurate and high percentage way to get started with your serve. You're like this, and if you want to volley it, you would do like this, okay? But paddle out in front of you like this, swing back and forward, and just come up. That's all you got to do. That's it. Try to make it as simple as humanly possible. It's going to give you a lot of consistency. It's going to help you just to get the ball in, which is great. So oftentimes in pickleball, beginners get very confused with serving rules, understandably so. Let's just talk about some basic rules here. So one of the big ones, don't put your foot on the line. That's a foot fault, we call it. Can't have your foot on the line. Also, you can't be beyond the imaginary extension of the center line, but also the sideline. In terms of foot faults, the ones that you see the most often are over here on the side. People like to stand here like this and then they serve, and you can't be outside that sideline. Just keep that in mind. So oftentimes you're gonna find yourself right in the middle here. Some people call this the mid-court, some people call it the transition zone, whatever you wanna call it, but you're gonna find yourself here a lot. The most important thing to understand is as you're hitting the ball in pickleball in this area, the last thing you wanna do is just randomly smack the ball. Try not to just hit the ball instinctually. So like this, where we just kind of go like that and smack it. That's not good. That's not going to get you anywhere, okay? Try instead to hit these shots a lot softer and just aim for the kitchen. One really great drill you can do is hit balls directly into the kitchen from the transition zone here. So we're not worried about making it perfect or anything. We just want to hit it in that rectangle. That's our goal. Just hit it into that little rectangle. That way, this is going to train you to hit the ball a lot softer, a lot easier. I know it's not normal, not natural, but try to slow down a little bit in the transition zone. It'll help out a lot. Whenever it's your opponent's turn to serve and you're the player that's doing the return to serve, it's really important to run to the kitchen line once you've done your return to serve. I very rarely do absolutes or guarantees when it comes to my instructions, but this is one of these absolutes. 99.9% of the time, whenever you do your return to serve, you're gonna book it to that line pretty much every single time. Okay, so Linda's gonna serve, and when she does, I'm gonna do my return to serve, and then I'm gonna book it to the net like this. And you don't have to run very fast. In higher level play, they run pretty fast, but just, you can walk to the line. Watch, I'll show you. You can just walk like this. Power walk. power strides up to that line. Just make sure that you do it. Don't stand here like this and then wait. Oftentimes what people do is they'll hit their return and then they'll just stand there and they'll watch it. Don't do that. Just smack it and then move. And then book it up on to that line. Another thing that happens in the transition zone a lot is issues with our footwork. Footwork is a big deal in this sport. So here's what I'm gonna do. When Linda hits the ball, I'm gonna make sure that my feet are just spread a little bit and I'm in just kind of a relaxed stance. That way my feet don't get tangled. Watch what happens if my feet are tangled. If I'm like this, then I'm not moving my feet. Things are really, really awkward because your feet really dictate what happens with the rest of your body. If I'm tangled up like this is super awkward. Like, what am I gonna do, right? So what I'm gonna do is just spread out my feet, spread out my position every time I hit the ball. So I'll smack the ball and then I'll spread my feet back out. Smack the ball, spread my feet back out. Smack the ball, spread my feet back out. Try to do that every single time you hit the ball. It makes a massive difference. Now, sort of in line with this footwork thing is an issue that a lot of beginners have with volleys. Again, volleys are just shots that haven't bounced yet. You take them out of the air. Now, typically when we talk about volleys, we're talking about really hard shots that are way up high or putaways or even those overhead smashes that you've probably seen a time or two. A lot of beginners get really scared about volleying the ball. Understandably so. A lot of beginners are scared to make a kitchen fault or whatever. Remember, if you're not anywhere near that kitchen, you're gonna be okay, don't worry about it. But what a lot of beginners do is they let the ball bounce when they could have volleyed it. If that ball is up in the air and you're not in the kitchen, go for it. Attack that ball. Hit it as hard as you can. It's really fun, but also it's expected of you in this sport. In pickleball, you really don't wanna hit the ball too high. If you hit the ball too high for your opponent, they're going to hit down on it and it's going to be very, very difficult to get, especially if it's an overhead like I mentioned. This type of stroke here is a killer. But beginners oftentimes have the opportunity to make those types of strokes, but they don't take them because they may be a little bit scared, or again, they may be afraid of making a kitchen fault. But try to really go for those volleys. They're really fun and they're very effective if you can get the right shot. So overall, when it comes to making more volleys, don't backpedal and back up to try to let that ball bounce in front of you. Stand your ground, stand right where you are, and then swipe that ball out of the air. As long as you're not in the kitchen, you'll be good to go. Oftentimes, you're gonna have to lunge to the side to get stuff. That happens a lot in this game. That's where a lot of people's injuries come from, let's be honest. Now, the way you do this though, don't lean first if you have to go to your side. Let me show you what that looks like. So Lynn's gonna feed one here to my forehand. Let me just show you what this looks like. Like that. So notice how I took a step, lunged, and then struck the ball, right? Here's the problem though. Let me show you this version. You see what happened? The mistake that I made is I leaned first. You can just practice this by yourself if you want to in your house. If you lean like this, and then you try to step, that is really difficult. Whereas if I step first, then lean, that is way easier to do. So if you have to lunge to the side, make sure that you take a step first. It makes a massive difference. All right, we're working on the ready position now. It's really critical to be in the ready position. For now, just focus on keeping your paddle up. Here's a great sort of rule of thumb here. If your paddle is in your peripheral vision right in front of you, you're probably doing it right. If I'm like right here, and I'm actually, let me just think back and forth with Linda here, and my paddle is out of my peripheral like this, the problem is that if she tries to attack me, my paddle is nowhere close to my upper body, right? So Linda's gonna attack me straight on, which is what you're gonna see in high level pickleball, okay? Oh God, that's exactly what's gonna happen, okay? But notice what happened there. My paddle was so far down, I could not react in time. Now, let's see what happens when my paddle is actually up and Linda tries to attack me. So, you notice what happened there. Because I had my paddle up, I had such a short distance to get to that ball, right? Start practicing that. It's gonna make a big difference. So again, paddle is in my peripheral. There we go. Paddle was up. It was just a simple motion. I just want to show you what happens if your paddle is down and your drilling partner attacks you. Oh God, that's what's gonna happen. Whew, just comes out of nowhere, right? You're totally at a disadvantage if your paddle is down like that. Just have it up. Oftentimes in pickleball, you're gonna get the advice, don't stand in the kitchen. Very common advice and very good advice, but it's a little bit of an iffy thing there, and new players can get confused with this, which is totally fine. Kitchen rule is one of the most important rules in pickleball. It's how the game functions. Really quickly, just a quick primer about the kitchen rule. You can't be standing in the kitchen and volley a ball at the same time. A volley is just a shot that hasn't bounced yet. That's all it is. Regardless of how soft the volley was or how hard the volley was, if it hasn't bounced, that's a volley. And if I'm standing in the kitchen, that's a fault. So here's the thing though. If I'm digging back and forth with Linda here, and I'm doing something like this, and I'm standing in the kitchen and she once again attacks me directly forward, well, all of a sudden I have to react, right? I gotta react and hit that ball, because if I don't, it's probably gonna land in. Now, of course it could land out, right? But if I'm just standing here, that's an automatic fault. That's why people say, just don't stand in the kitchen. Just be right here, like this. And if I do have to stand in the kitchen for some reason, let's say that Linda hits a kind of a short one, like this, and I step into the kitchen to get it, like that, or something along those lines, all you gotta do is move out, and you're good to go. So that's a really good rule of thumb to remember with the kitchen rule. Just don't stand in the kitchen, but if you have to get a dink, remember, it's gotta bounce first, just head on out and you're good to go. Here's another area where beginners can get confused with the kitchen rule. You don't have to wait to go into the kitchen before the ball bounces. When the ball bounces doesn't necessarily matter, it's just if the ball bounces that's important. So, you know, if I'm digging back and forth, I can step into this kitchen anytime I want, as long as if the ball bounces, that's what's important. Now, if I step in and volley, that's the fault, right? But when you go into the kitchen really doesn't matter. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what happens if you were in the kitchen, right? So if I'm doing something like this and we're dinking back and forth, okay? And if Linda attacks me, if I do that, okay, I start hitting the ball as I'm coming out, that is also a fault. And the reason is because I was in the kitchen. In order for that to not be a fault, I have to get my feet out, plant, and then I can volley. Paddles. Oh boy. In general, as a beginner, there's really two different ways that you can look at this here. If you're just the kind of beginner that's like, you know what, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this thing, just get the cheapest paddle that you can find or borrow one from a friend. If you're not really sure if you're gonna be into pickleball in the long term, just get something fairly cheap. However, if you're more on that kind of advanced beginner side, you're addicted to the sport and you can't stop thinking about it, sometimes it can make sense to buy a more expensive paddle. Now, at the very high levels, when it comes to really expensive paddles, in reality, it's more about your skills and your strategy that's gonna improve your game, okay? But if you're using some cheap paddle that's like $15 and you upgrade to a $200 Whopper, you're gonna notice a massive difference. There's absolutely no question about that. What matters here in terms of buying paddles or upgrading your paddle is how long do you think you're gonna be playing this sport? Realistically, how often are you playing now? And do you see yourself playing for a very long time? If that's the case, then it is definitely going to be worth investing in a paddle. Maybe go up into kind of the 150, 200 range, something like that. But if you're just like, you know what, I need a paddle just like I need an umbrella, but I don't care how good the umbrella is, well, then you can just go for something kind of on the cheaper end. You don't really need to do anything too expensive. But if you can see yourself being competitive, playing in leagues, and you really want to get better, awesome, by the way, then yeah, go ahead and get yourself a little bit more expensive paddle. It'll pay off in the end. Now, if you need a complete guide on how to choose a pickleball paddle, I've got that guide linked down in the description. Now, I know that can be quite overwhelming with all the tips, but I've got them all listed out as chapters below in the description so that you can come back to it and click on any one that you want. But when you go out to the courts, try not to do a whole bunch of these all at once. Pick one, maybe two of these tips to focus on every time you go play or hit or drill or whatever. Maybe focus on just the volley thing or the footwork thing, whatever you think, but try to just focus on a couple. That's it though, guys. Fix these things and you're gonna have a lot more fun. Trust me, I was a beginner at one point. It's gonna make a big difference. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.